On the 24th of July, 2025, the man in red and yellow fell, quietly, suddenly. Hulk Hogan, the titan who turned wrestling into a billion-dollar empire, died at 71. But his story was never just muscle and fame. It was legacy, and the silence left behind. Let's uncover what he built and what crumbled beneath it. Hogan's final 5 days, the secret signals before the titan fell. A hush fell across the world of professional wrestling when Hulk Hogan, the icon who defined the spectacle, died suddenly of cardiac arrest on the 24th of July, 2025, at the age of 71. A man whose body had endured wars in the ring for decades succumbed not during battle, but in the stillness of mourning at his Clearwater, Florida home. Yet what shocks the world more than his death is how little warning there seemed to be. Just 5 days before his passing, Linda Hogan, his ex-wife of 26 years, posted a nostalgic photo of the two on Instagram. The caption? "The good old days. A moment that seemed sentimental now feels almost prophetic. After years of public fallout, lawsuits, and divorce, why did Linda choose that exact moment to recall their past?" Even more baffling, Jimmy Hart, Hogan's lifelong confidant and manager, publicly stated just 2 days prior that Hogan was in good spirits and recovering well from complex neck surgery. He described the former champion as strong, positive, and on the mend. Hart had no doubt Hogan would soon return to the spotlight. But Hogan never made it back. When paramedics arrived that morning, he was unresponsive. He was rushed to Morton Plant Hospital, but it was too late. The Clearwater Police Department confirmed there was no foul play, a natural death, they claimed. Yet with no immediate health crisis, no warning, and a history of survival through 10 spinal and knee surgeries, the suddenness leaves questions echoing in silence. This wasn't just any man. Hogan transformed pro wrestling into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. His charisma filled arenas and transcended borders. His legacy was built not only in matches, but in mythology. He was the muscle behind Hulkamania, the mastermind of WCW's NW Rebellion, and the villain who turned the tide with a single poke in the finger poke of doom. But behind the mask of power was a man broken, physically and perhaps emotionally. By 2025, Hogan had undergone at least 10 major surgeries, including multiple spine fusions and knee replacements. In a 2023 interview, he revealed his nerves had dulled and his body had worn down to the bone. Despite that, he remained active, appearing at WWE events and meet and greets as recently as early 2025. He maintained a strict regimen, stayed lean, and, by all accounts, had outpaced the very era he helped define. Then came the silence. What followed was a wave of tributes that blurred the lines between sports and politics. Donald Trump called him a true MAGA warrior. Celebrities from Dwayne Johnson to Mike Tyson and LeBron James posted tributes filled with awe, grief, and admiration. But the most haunting tribute came from the timeline itself. A nostalgic photo. A declaration of strength. Then, an inexplicable fall. If Hulk Hogan ever made you believe in strength, loyalty, comment Hulk below. But to understand how shocking that final silence was, we must go back to the noise that once defined him, to the golden years. Hulk Hogan's billion-dollar peak and his hidden millions. In the halcyon years of the 1982nd, Hulk Hogan wasn't just a wrestler, he was a seismic force. Standing over 6'6" with 24-inch pythons, Hogan drove a phenomenon christened Hulkamania, transforming the WWF from regional shows into a multi-billion-dollar global juggernaut. His persona, red bandana, handlebar mustache, ripped shirt, became the face of a machine that reshaped sports entertainment. It was at WrestleMania in 1987 where Hogan's impact crystallized. The body slam of Andre the Giant wasn't just physical, it shattered expectations. In front of over 93,000 fans and record-breaking pay-per-view earnings, estimated in excess of $10 million, Hogan helped deliver one of the highest Nielsen ratings in history, cementing the WWF in mainstream media consciousness. During his peak, Hogan headlined 8 of the WWF's first 9 WrestleMania events, maintained a WWF World Championship reign of 1,474 consecutive days, and earned the unique distinction of winning back-to-back Royal Rumble matches in 1990 and 1991. He earned in excess of $10 million a year from wrestling alone, not including revenues from merchandise, licensing, and media appearances. This reach extended well beyond the ring. Hogan starred as Thunderlips in Rocky, 1982, appeared on the AY Team, headlined his own reality show Hogan Knows Best, and licensed branded products. including Real American Beer and Hulk Hogan Thunder Mixer blenders, turning his name into a consumer empire. At its zenith, Hogan's personal fortune peaked near $30 million, fueled by merchandise, endorsements, pay-per-view shares, film deals, and speaker appearances. Even after royalties and real estate values, Celebrity Net Worth estimated his net worth at $25 million at the time of his death, reflecting both smart investments and costly losses. And yet, between 1984 and the early 1992, Hogan owned professional wrestling in a way no future star has. Paying the Iron Sheik for his first WWF title in 1984, body-slamming Andre in 1987, dominating pay-per-views, starring in mainstream films, Hogan turned ring moves into milestones and mic calls into merchandise streams. Inside that dazzling peak lies the loudest paradox of all, a titan who commanded the world's attention and the world's wallet, ultimately eroded by the very fame that made him formidable. In opulent retrospection, it is no exaggeration to say Hogan's career peak wasn't merely about wins in the ring, it was about winning over America's economy with every flex and catchphrase. The reality show that broke the real Hogan, $30 million family exposed. In the mid-2002, an imposing wrestling titan did something no ring ever demanded. He let cameras into his house. Hogan Knows Best, debuting July 2005 on VH1, stunned audiences by laying bare the life of Hulk Hogan, the man behind the myth with his wife Linda, daughter Brooke, and teenage son Nick. The series drew cable television ratings that peaked near 2.0 Nielsen, the largest audience VH1 had ever seen at the time, generating massive advertising revenue and boosting Hogan's public value far beyond the wrestling ring. At a glance, it seemed pedestrian. Dinner prep, teenage tangents, and Hogan's trademark catchphrases softened to bland paternal advice. But beneath the staged humor lurked fault lines, strained finances, marital friction, and the burden of fame. Brooke's music career, launched with a $1.3 million contract, was pitched as Hogan's next empire. Yet bills for Brooke's studio and legal costs reportedly exceeded $200,000, and the facade began to crack. Yet no empire, no matter how golden, is immune to the rot from within. And what came next wasn't a match, but a mirror, broadcast to millions. The unraveling didn't begin in the ring. It began at home. The show was a ratings triumph and a ticking time bomb. In August 2007, Nick Hogan, then just 17, crashed his Toyota Supra in Clearwater, Florida, during a drag race. His passenger, Iraq veteran John Graziano, suffered traumatic brain injury and remains in lifelong care. Nick was arrested, charged with reckless driving causing serious bodily harm, and eventually sentenced to 8 months in jail, probation, 500 hours of community service, and a 3-year suspended license. His family, Nick included, was sued for millions in medical damages. The financial ripple was deep. Hogan's estimated worth once around $30 million pre-divorce would soon dwindle, burdened by legal bills, divorce settlements, and public backlash. Within a few years, that value sank to around $25 million due to wrestling, but due to the secrecy he aired on national television. In essence, Hogan Knows Best wasn't merely entertainment, it was a psychological turn in Hogan's narrative. The show blurred the line between fame and infamy. Ratings soared as private troubles became a shared spectacle. His stern father persona became increasingly hollow as personal crises eclipsed performance. By the time the final episode aired, the damage was done. The Hogan brand, once worth untold millions in merchandise and box office, was diminishing. Hogan Knows Best had transformed Hogan from the invincible ring hero into a flawed patriarch under scrutiny. The world learned not of Hulkamania, but of strained trust, betrayal, and tragedy lurking behind bandanas and biceps. That show set off a chain reaction, a divorce that cost Hogan 70% of liquid assets, a damaged reputation, and a net worth falling from six-figured millionaire status to a haunting $25 million persona marked by scandal instead of celebration. Its final scene? A family portrait shattered by real-world chaos, bruising the myth and revealing the man. That is the story buried in ratings and scripted bravado, the reality show that broke the real Hogan. A television triumph that morphed into moral collapse, and the moment when fame demanded too high a price for truth. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, the damage had already been done, but Hogan's world still glittered, mansions, cars, symbols of a myth still breathing. Inside Hogan's $11.5 million, Clearwater Fortress and secret muscle car vault. A legend may pass, but his treasures endure. And in Hulk Hogan's case, they scream extravagance. At the time of his death, Hogan controlled a waterfront estate in Clearwater, Florida, valued at $11.5 million. The two contiguous properties, bought for $3.3 million in 2012 and $1.6 million in 2016, span nearly 5,500 square feet, featuring 5 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, hurricane-resistant windows, a wine cellar, and terraces facing water. Every suite carries a balcony, every window built to withstand 130 miles per hour wind gusts. A fortress of comfort and coastal bravado. But Hogan's real wealth was embedded beyond the mansion walls, in metal and horsepower. Hogan admitted he spent tens of millions on a muscle car collection that included a 1968 Dodge Charger RT, a 1969 Plymouth Roadrunner, a 1971 Plymouth Barracuda, and a modern 2021 Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat, each vehicle a rolling monument to American excess and roaring power. One shock detail: during his 2007 divorce from Linda Hogan, she received 70% of their liquid assets, including $7.44 million in cash and major vehicles. The Dodge Charger, Corvette, and Cadillac Escalade she kept became part of her settlement. But Hogan's most dangerous legacy wasn't parked in his garage. It was written live, on television, in one of wrestling's most seismic betrayals, where heroism was flipped and chaos sold like candy. When the greatest hero became wrestling's master saboteur. At Bash at the Beach, July 7, 1996, Hulk Hogan shattered nearly a decade of hero worship, aligning with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash to form the New World Order WW. It was the single most shocking heel turn in wrestling history, a legendary all-American icon trading his red-yellow glory for black attire, a sneer, and a declaration of war against the very fans who adored him. Why did this betrayal resonate so deeply? Hogan had built professional wrestling into a multi-billion-dollar spectacle. Children idolized him. America danced to his "Say your prayers, eat your vitamins" mantra. For years, he embodied morale, muscle, and myth. Then he turned his back. It wasn't just a storyline, it was a personal coup, weaponizing nostalgia into rebellion. That spark ignited a ratings insurgency. WCW's Monday Nitro, propelled by the NWO storyline, outdrew WWF's Raw for 83 consecutive weeks, from June 1996 to May 1998, delivering a ratings coup that reshaped wrestling's business landscape and forced WWF to pivot into the gritty, edgy Attitude Era. The financial impact was monumental. WCW, once floundering, surged to $55 million in profit by 1998, riding Hogan's reinvention as its frontline architect. Then came the moment of utter collapse. On January 4, 1999, during a live episode of Nitro in Atlanta, Hogan faced Kevin Nash in what was promoted as a high-stakes championship match. Instead of combat, Hogan lightly poked Nash with a finger. Nash collapsed theatrically. Hogan was declared champion. The crowd erupted, not in celebration, but with anger and disbelief. It became infamously known as the finger poke of doom, a scripted betrayal of fan trust so bone-chilling that it shattered WCW's credibility in a blink. This wasn't theater, it was a business turning toxic. As journalists and historians later analyzed, F-Pod is widely credited as the turning point from dominance to dissolution, a creative disaster that accelerated WCW's downfall and paved the way for WWF to buy the promotion for mere millions, a fraction of its former value. In less than 3 years, Hogan had catalyzed WWE's decline, but in doing so, he also engineered its ultimate renaissance. By forcing WWF to evolve, he orchestrated an unintended legacy. The Attitude Era's explosive growth, a new era built on anti-heroes and authenticity. This single thread, narrative, betrayal, dominance, theatrical suicide, stands as one of the richest, darkest stories of modern entertainment. In financial terms, it's the story of a multi-billion-dollar promotion built and broken under one man's hand. And in wrestling terms, it's a masterpiece of dramatic irony. Hulk Hogan didn't just change the wrestling world. The heel turn changed wrestling. But outside the ring, the real game was wealth, control, and survival. And when compared to the stars who came after, Hogan's playbook begins to feel like a cautionary relic. Lavish excess, legal battles, and why The Rock won't be haunted. At the apex of fame, Hulk Hogan lived like an emperor, with a fortune said to be worth $30 million, yet who splashed out hundreds of millions in 1,992nd extravagance, only to be reduced to a net worth of $25 million at death in 2025. And when compared to The Rock and John Cena, Hogan's legacy becomes a cautionary tale, and there's a study in ascension beyond the ring. The Rock, the titan who transcended WWE. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson converted his wrestling fame into a colossal net worth, estimated at $800 million in 2025. Forbes lists his 2024 earnings at $88 million, with gross revenues of $103 million, making him Hollywood's top-paid actor. His wealth stems not only from movies like Jumanji and Fast, Furious, but also from entrepreneurial moves. He owns a tequila brand, Terramana, valued in the billions, a clothing line with Under Armour, production firm 7 Bucks, and a board role at TKO Group owning WWE and UFC stock. His Beverly Park estate, reportedly worth $28.7 million, is a symbol of his sustained luxury, yet grounded in investments structured for long-term growth, not just tax write-offs. John Cena's quiet reinvention. John Cena, with a net worth of about $80 million in 2025, made his leap through acting, endorsements, and television development deals, and has become known as one of the more business-savvy ex-wrestlers. In 2024, Cena earned $23 million net, with $30 million gross earnings, ranking him among the top 20 highest-paid actors globally. Not flashy, but effective. Cena built brands and deals modest in headline value yet strong in compound returns, from Fast and Furious cameo fees to voice acting pay, Netflix shows, and appearances. Why Hogan failed where Rock and Cena thrived. Emotional overspend versus strategic investment. Hogan's spending was reactive: mansions, jewelry, vehicles. Rock and Cena invested: brands, production, royalties. Single asset reliance versus ecosystem wealth. Hogan depended on wrestling fame. When scandals struck, all unraveled. Rock built a multi-industry ecosystem. Cena diversified via entertainment and endorsements. Public collapse versus controlled evolution. Hogan's divorce became global tabloid fodder. Gawker trial exposed private life. Cena and Rock kept personal scandals minimal. They retained control of narrative. Fame gave Hogan everything, and in the end, it took just as much. But nothing captured that downfall more perfectly than the graveyard of failed brands he left behind, products built on muscle, but hollow at the core. From Hulkamania to brand bankruptcy, the millions dollars behind Hogan's forgotten products. The Pastamania debacle, millions dollars wasted on a pasta fantasy. In 1995, Hulk Hogan launched Pastamania at the Mall of America in a spectacle-filled grand opening featuring Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage. The menu boasted Hulkwe Yus, Hulkwe Roos, and cheesy-themed pasta dishes for kids. Yet despite national marketing blitzes on WCW, sales cratered. Hogan energy drink fizzle in a crowded market. In 2006, Hogan ventured into beverages with Hogan Energy, distributed by Saco Energy. The drink launched with bold claims about powering the energetic Hogan lifestyle, involving family, reality television, and even daughter Brooke's music career. Yet it never gained shelf traction and quietly vanished. Marketing spoke of taurine, Biochi vitamins, and exotic herbal boosters, but retail performance is unrecorded, and industry analysts say the saturated energy drink sector overwhelmed it. Its obscurity stands as proof of celebrity name alone not guaranteeing success. Thunder Mixer and Hulkster Burgers, an unforgiving bite. Hogan also stamped his name onto a branded Thunder Mixer, a high-speed blender touted on QVC. In 2008, the associated Ultimate Grill he endorsed was recalled due to fire hazards. The products were flashy, but technical failures and safety concerns destroyed consumer trust instantly. Likewise, Hulkster Burgers, a microwavable line of hamburgers, cheeseburgers, and chicken sandwiches exclusively sold at Walmart, barely left a trace. No long-term contracts, no consumer loyalty. Most stores phased the line out within months. The brand's invisibility today speaks volumes about its lack of impact. Brand, graveyard, other ventures, and lingering losses. Additional ventures like Hogan's Beach in Tampa, opened 2012, rebranded after controversy, and Hostamania web hosting, enjoyed early promise but drifted into irrelevance. Hogan launched Real American Beer in 2024, but its distribution was limited to just a few states. No reports suggest lasting profitability. His attempt to monetize the Hulkamania brand into film, media, nutrition, and hospitality largely faded with time. Each new logo, slogan, or packing label once glistened under stadium lights, but failed to convert fan nostalgia into sustainable revenue. Shock Trigger, a brand empire that earned billions, then bombed. Here is the explosive paradox. Hulk Hogan helped build a multi-billion-dollar entertainment empire, yet his personal brands launched under that same untouchable image crumbled one by one. With ventures ranging from pasta to energy drinks, from burgers to blenders, Hogan's name generated millions in hype, but precious little in returns. The anatomy of failure. What went wrong? Branding illusions over substance. Hogan's persona demanded bold products, flashy, loud, premium-themed. But in every case, execution failed. Pasta as rehashed canned sauce, burger patties delivering no flavor, energy drinks lost in a sea of brands. Celebrity isn't product quality. What do you like about Hogan? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Like this video, subscribe so you never miss a new story about the world's most fascinating people. Thanks for watching.